Do you need an oil change on your 95B Porsche Macan and the dealership is just charging you way too much? I'm Marissa Simos here with FCP Euro, and today we're going to show you just how to do an oil change on the early 3.0T 95B Porsche Macans. Today, we're going to be going over how to do an oil change on your 95B or first generation Porsche Macan like this one behind me here. We're going to be installing Liqui-Moly's 5W40 kit. This is included in Porsche's A40 approval specification ratings of oils for this platform. It also includes 0W40 as well, and this Liqui-Moly kit here. Now, depending on what region, driving use case, and climate that you're driving in, you might decide that you want to go with 5W40 or 0W40. Either way, we have a multitude of kits here at fcpeuro.com to fit your needs. Porsche recommends a service interval of every 1 year or 10,000 miles, whichever comes soon enough. Here at FCP Euro, we recommend cutting that interval in half and doing an oil change every 5,000 miles or 6 months, whichever comes sooner. Some symptoms outside of the obvious of surpassing the service interval include you might need to start topping off your oil level. As oil gets into more and more consecutive heat cycles, it's going to have a tendency to burn a little bit more. You might get to a point where you start to see your fuel economy drop down, and if you really let it exasperate to this point, you might have some bigger problems at hand. Now, overall, this is a really high-value DIY to do. It's low skill set, you're not going to need a ton of fancy tools, and it's going to be a substantial cost savings over going to the dealership. So let's go ahead and take a look at the tools you're going to need. Some tools we're going to use today, starting with a 36mm socket, 8mm Allen key, extension, T25 socket, optional security seal for the drain plug, flashlight, pick for the under tray, ratcheting wrench, torque wrench that goes up to 28 Newton meters. We're going to use an electric drill to just speed up some of the under tray process, brake clean, funnel. Then you're also going to need some type of scan tool. For today's video, we're using the Autel MX808 to reset the oil interval light. Now, what's not pictured is also a Lyle splash tray for collecting the oil when you go to drain it. Now, let's get this DIY started. Now, first step we're going to do today is we're going to be taking off the vent cap here. This is to enable a little bit better flow when we go to drain the oil out. Following this, we're going to go ahead and get the car lifted up in the air. Now, in today's video, we're going to be putting it on a lift for better visibility on your end. You don't necessarily have to do that. You can easily do this job with a set of jacks and a jack stand. But also, if you have a Porsche Macan with factory air suspension, make sure you go on ahead and disable that feature to enable you to do the job properly and safely. For us and this job today, we have steel springs, so we're not going to need to do this step here. So now that we're under the car, we're going to go ahead and take out about 15 T25 screws to free up the splash tray here. If you're like us here at FCP Euro and you find yourself missing one, rest assured we have them on our website and we'll link them in the description below. Now that you have all of those screws freed up, you're going to have two plastic rivets on the end of this. So you're just going to want to take a pick or a flathead screwdriver, whatever fits your fancy here. And you're just going to want to pop these plastic rivets free. Now, if a pick doesn't work, a trim tool might be a better fit here. There we go. You're just going to want to hold it up while you release the last one here so you don't get hit in the head. Now, this is a sight that I love to see, but if you see this on your car, it's not going to be super fun. What we have here is we have a really good visual of some leaks going on. We have some leaking from the oil filter housing here. If you look above it, you'll see that there's some sweating, which might be indicative of front timing cover leaks, which is a pretty big issue on this platform. But thankfully, it seems like a lot of what we're seeing here that's very wet and liquidy could be from the oil filter housing, might be from a bad O-ring, could be that it's cracked and leaking. Time will tell, but let's go ahead and start taking this apart and draining the oil. So let's go ahead and take the drain plug off first. This is going to be an 8mm Allen socket bit here. Make sure that you use one of these Lyle Guard oil drain trays. The splash shield will be super helpful especially if your oil is a little bit on the warmer side. You don't want this splashing back at you. So now that we're draining the oil and I'm getting a smell and taking a look at what's coming out, it's definitely due for an oil change. So while we let this drain out, we're gonna go ahead and get the tool to take the filter housing cover off next. And to crack open the oil filter housing, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a 36mm socket to free it up. And you're just gonna wanna take this off ever so slowly. You don't want it to rush out. It's how you'll get a mess made. There's gonna be a little bit more coming out of this than you might expect, so just be prepared for that. We're just gonna let this drain out for a little bit longer just to get as much of the old oil out. Once these get to a pretty consistent little drip, we'll put everything back on. So while we have a little bit of a lighter drip going here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the O-ring and I'm going to put it in a little vestibule full of brand new oil just to get this greased up and ready to be reinstalled. You're gonna wanna make sure that you work the oil around the O-ring just to make sure that all of the surface area is covered as prep for the housing. Now that that's greased, we're gonna go ahead and take the old one off. You're gonna wanna notate here where the indentation is for the O-ring. Kind of looks a little bit similar to the thread pattern of the housing, so you're just gonna wanna make sure that you pay attention to that. So when you put the new one in, you put it back in the right place. It's a very slippery process here. Perfect. All right. Just walk that around, make sure that's seated. Now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get the new drain plug included in the kit along with a new washer for it, and we're gonna put that back on, clean all of this up, and start on reassembly. So this is almost coming to an end here, so what I'm gonna do next is I'm just gonna wipe down the outside of this housing, made a little bit of a mess getting everything ready before. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna snug everything up with my hands, not worrying about torque specs just yet, just so I can spray some brake clean on just the exterior only. It's imperative you don't wanna get brake clean into the oil filter housing. You don't wanna contaminate any of that if you can help it. So I like to personally hand tighten everything first, clean my working area down, and then go in with final torque specs. So one thing to note when you go to put the filter on is it's gonna be a little bit of a bear just because you're gonna see this fiber material. When you first get the filter housing, it's gonna be pretty flat. Essentially what you're doing is you're pressing this in, creating a little lip shape here over this metal boss. So essentially you're fighting the material just to get it to have a really snug and tight fit. Don't be alarmed or scared if you struggle a little bit, such as myself here, but with some spinning action and enough rotation, you'll eventually get it. All right. With that nice and seated, you'll get a feel for it. You'll know when it's confidently seated there. You're just gonna wanna take the oil filter housing, slide that over, and then start putting that back on. You're gonna wanna give it a little bit of a push because there is a spring on the inside of the oil filter housing as well. One trick in case you're struggling with the pressure of the oil filter housing is go ahead and just put the socket back on, press the palm of your hand up on the back of the socket, and then you'll feel it start to seat. And again, we're just snugging it up right now, so we're gonna leave it like that just so we can start cleaning everything down. So when you go to install the new drain plug, double check, make sure that the old washer is removed, and make sure that you put the new washer in with the drain plug we include, as they're not pre-installed onto the bolt when you buy a kit from us. Wipe as much as you can down with a paper towel or some type of shop rag here. Obviously, brake clean will get a lot more of the residue off, but I don't like to be super aggressive with brake clean just because you have a lot of painted surfaces on the underside. You don't necessarily want to be neglectful of those. Here at FCP Euro, we stock BMW brake parts cleaner. It's pretty cheap, gets the job done. While you're in here, you're just gonna wanna make sure you touch all of the areas that, for the next time you do your oil change, don't freak you out and make you panic to see if this current job is a leak. You're gonna wanna make sure that you have a clean enough job so that if a new leak were to present itself on the underside, you can do a little bit of a better process of elimination and diagnostics to figure out exactly why. You might wanna wear eye goggles if you're not working on a lift. It's gonna be a lot more close up on your face if you're on jack stands. You don't want to get the stuff in your eyes. So now that we got everything nice and clean and ready for our next oil change, note I cleaned up some of the sweat over here, noted some of my front timing cover leaks over here, and got everything over here nice and presentable in case something else decides to leak. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start torquing everything down. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the oil drain bolt here. This is gonna be 28 Newton meters. The oil filter housing, that's gonna be 25. So make sure you have your torque wrench set and just give it a go. That click there tells me we're all good. Now that we have that set up, same thing, just like that. Now that we got all of this torque to spec, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna install the belly tray back up so we can start adding oil at the top. All right, so we're just gonna reinstall this belly tray here, just like how we had removed it. This will be a little bit clunky at first to get these fuse started in here. So if you need to start it by hand, definitely do so, just to get it to catch. And then you can start tightening them down. Torque spec on these guys is gonna be 2.5 Newton meters. And if you're just like us here at FCP Euro, you can grab one of these on hand and complete your bolt count. So there's nothing I hate more than working on my car and knowing it's not 100%. So now that we have all of those bolts installed, let's go ahead and finish up the job with these plastic rivets. Now with this all taken care of, we can go ahead and lower the car and start adding oil. Now, since our Macan is equipped with the first generation early 3.0T with the cold V designed by Porsche, this engine's going to take up to 8 liters of oil, depending on how much you evacuated during the drain. It's imperative that you underfill, as this car doesn't have a dipstick. You're going to want to make sure that you put, I'm going to start with about 7 liters worth of oil just to ensure that we're not overfilling. That way there, we can check the infotainment system, see where the level is at, and then always add additional oil as needed. Now, no matter whether or not you have an E8888 powered Macan or the later E8839 Volkswagen Audi 3.0T, we have all the kits for all the different powertrain options on the 95B Macan, so rest assured you have enough to work with. Now let's go ahead and start adding oil. We're going to take our no-spill funnel that we sell here at FCP Euro and go ahead and install that for an easy, clean fill-up. So we're just going to install the base, then install the top, and then get started pouring. We're going to start with this jug here, which is 5 liters. That's going to include an additional 2 of the singular liter bottles to get us over into 7. Then from there, we'll meet you guys onto the inside to check the infotainment to see oil level height. So in order to check oil level, you need to have the car on and warmed up fully in order to get a reading. And the reason being, if you look at this menu here, we have various different temperatures. Our oil temp's only at 84 degrees right now. And if I click into it to try to get oil measurement, it will simply just tell me it's not ready and it can't provide any information about the oil level present. It's imperative that you just simply give the car enough time to wait, fully warm up. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get a reading and you're not going to be able to top off the fluid as you may or may not need to. So it's best just to do this with the garage door open or in your driveway, somewhere where you could just let this warm up as it needs to get to full operating temperature to provide a measurement. So we're just going to hang out, let this car get up to temp, and we'll catch up with you guys in a second. So now that we have the car warmed up, you could see here that we need to add max of 1 quart to refill to fill it all the way to the top. So let's go ahead and do so. Now it's important, if you are going to work on your car and leave the hood open, go ahead and leave it open while you're warming up the car the entire time. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait for it to get up to temp, and you're going to have to put miles on it to get this level indicator to trigger again. Ask me how I know how. So very smart practice. Use a hood prop or just give yourself some type of reminder to say, hey, don't close the hood when you're adding oil. Leave it open, let it warm up, and you'll be able to get a reading in approximately 10 minutes or so, depending on how cold the car is when you start it back up. Now that we're in the vehicle menu, let's go ahead and click into oil measurement. We see that our oil level is now correct. If it's not reading as correct, it's worth noting that if you have this menu up, you can continue to add oil to top off the level, but you're going to have to give it a few seconds delay to see the sensor provide the reading on screen. Now that we've gone ahead and we've checked that our oil measurement level is correct, it's also worth noting if you struggle to reach this point in your oil change specifically, you might have to drive your vehicle 9 miles, get everything up to temp before you get another reading. Sometimes if you close the hood prematurely or something else happens in the process, you don't warm it up fully, you might have to actually add mileage to get a reading back on the screen here on Macan specifically. So if you didn't get to this screen yet, don't fret, put some miles on it. If you're concerned about your oil being just way too low to put miles on it, period, it's worth noting that a light will come on to prompt you if your oil is excessively low. So go ahead and put 9 miles on if you have to. Otherwise, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna plug in the Autel, and we're gonna reset the oil change reminder for this car. So even though our oil is showing at the correct amount here, you can see that we have a min and max range, and we're kind of on the lower end of that spectrum. So we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit more, being cautious of adding too much, but making sure we just top it off so it gets a little bit higher to the middle or higher section of that range there. So now that we have our Autel plugged in, we're gonna browse through the menu here and look for Porsche. Here we go, select that. While it loads up the Porsche program, we're going to hit auto selection, have it read the VIN for us. Perfect. Yep, verifying that it's the correct year, make, model. So you'll find yourself on the main menu here where you're going to have diagnosis and hot functions. Go ahead and click into the hot functions menu. Oil reset is going to be the first one. Click into that, wait for it to load and communicate with the vehicle. Reset maintenance interval. We're going to go ahead and select the oil service. Execute. And it successfully reset the maintenance interval for the oil service. It's going to say press N to continue. Go ahead and do that. And we've just completed the reset for the maintenance interval on the oil change on this Porsche 95B Macan. And just like that, we've gone ahead and completed our oil change DIY on this 95B Porsche Macan. If you guys like this video, go ahead, like and subscribe for more Porsche 95B content. Comment below if you guys have any questions on this video, and be sure to check out all of our Porsche 95B content headed your way from FCP Euro. I'm Marissa Simos. Thank you guys again so much for watching. We'll go ahead and catch you guys on the next one.